What are some things to do if somebody that you work with or somebody that you come across in your ministry or in your life has an addiction and you want to know how can you help? If you have a relationship with that person where you can be honest that that's what you see and it's pretty obvious that they're at the point where they actually need help, you can always refer them to support groups. Support groups like Alcoholics Anonymous for drinkers. If it's a family member that you have a relationship with or are dealing with who's talking about their family member that has an addiction to alcohol, there is Al-Anon, which is for family members, and Alateen, which is for the children of alcoholics. If it is a drug addiction, there is Nar-Anon for the families of people that have family members addicted to narcotics or drugs, and then there's Narcotics Anonymous for the person who's struggling with a drug addiction. There are programs where you can get sober, staying for anywhere from a month to detox to getting help to up to a year, where somewhere like Teen Challenge. So there are all kinds of different support groups and programs that you can refer somebody to if you can come right out and say, this is what I can see is going on, whether the person is in denial or not, and I'd like to offer this as a resource. Can't make anybody go, but you can definitely offer it. When you talk to somebody dealing with an addiction, it might be simple to look at it as a sin, a lack of self-control, a lack of self-discipline, but addiction is way more than that. Addiction is referred to as a disease in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous because the addiction could eventually cause death. It's going to cause physiological, physical, psychological, spiritual, mental, and relational destruction or decay to the point where the person could actually lose their life. That is the disease process. Addiction is something that someone engages in because at the beginning it felt better. It was a relief from the pain, a relief from the internal struggles, a relief from the guilt, a relief from that feeling of inadequacy, and that filled that void at the beginning. Over time, an addiction worsens to where the person begins to need more and more. Life begins to fall apart. There are all kinds of problems that are happening. The addiction, the engaging in the using the substance or the behavior is becoming less and less fulfilling, and it is becoming more and more obvious that this person's life is unraveling. And so the addiction process goes from the addiction the person just using, occasionally, and where it's real pleasurable, to the point where life begins to fall apart and there are more problems because of the addiction, and the use of the substance or activity doesn't really solve those problems anymore. That takes time. It takes time for the person to go through that. They may not be ready to admit it at a certain point that they have a problem and that they need help. Some people have to have things fall apart, what we call hitting a bottom, before they actually get help. Other people are able to get help much quicker. It helps when the family of the addict gets help themselves and gets healthy and has healthy responses to the addiction. You might want to have within your church or organization different individuals who are willing to be honest about their own struggles with addiction, so that when you run across somebody who has that problem, you can call this person and say, would you mind getting together with them, and see if this person is willing to talk to someone who understands because they've gone through the very same thing. That's really helpful. You just want to be honest about your concerns and your observations. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to find the program necessarily if you don't have access to those things or know them. You just need to be honest with the person as much as you can that's commensurate with the relationship that you have with that person. If you're working with somebody who's an addict, don't make excuses and cover up their work mistakes or lie to the boss or punch in their time card so that they're on time even though they're really late. Don't do those things. That's called enabling. All that does is prolong the time that the addict can use without consequences. If you're aware of child abuse or neglect, you might want to talk to the person or someone else about your concerns. If you're a mandated reporter, you may have to call child protective services. You never want to pay an addict's bills or bail the addict out of the difficulties that come as a result of the addiction. That, again, is enabling. That allows a person to continue without those consequences. If you're in a position of authority, you may have to make difficult decisions about asking a person in a leadership role to step down temporarily until they get help, or to step back and not be so front and center, or possibly to change a job title, or maybe the person needs to take some time off of the job. There's all kinds of issues that have to do that with the Americans with Disability Act. If you're in an employment situation, you might want to talk to somebody in your human relations part of your company. You can always offer to help if it's a family member, somebody close to you where you would be in this position, not to pay the bills so that the addict can go out and continue the addiction, but to help facilitate the addict's recovery. For instance, watching the children while the addict goes to a meeting, or helping the addict get or figure out what resources might be available for, say, inpatient treatment. So when you're dealing with an addict, keeping these things in mind will give you some options of what you can do. You can also refer that person's family members to support groups, because when the family gets well, the addict has a higher probability of getting well also. Thank you for listening to this video on Change My Relationship.